in this video about stuff that's I wouldn't believe it myself a year ago, and I'm kind of pushing my luck with what my audience can believe. But hey, this is just a collection of ideas and guesses and some personal experiences, like a hodgepodge of stuff that relates to time travel. And I don't expect you to believe everything you hear from me, but when I discovered my psychic side, and I've had so many experiences that so some of the stuff that seems incredible, I kind of look at it and say, hey, is this possible? Has this happened already? Um, well, I just gonna tell you some stuff or stories that that kind of relates to this. Anyhow, I want to tell you something really funny about the stuff that seems impossible. This morning I got off the work in my security guard job because I work at night. Anyhow, I usually come in the morning to go to the gym, and I had to wait half hour because the gym opens at 7. And I got there like 6:30ish. So I went and bought some cream cheese and a couple of bagels, some other stuff, little stuff. So I brought them by my car, which is like a Ford. I usually put it on the top of the trunk with my soda and start drinking and making myself a little breakfast. Anyhow, so I just finished the first bagel. I nibbled through the second bagel. I got this sneaky feeling that something or someone is watching me. It's kind of has an interest in the second bagel. I had this feeling because I think a lot of the birds that are around the gym, they know me and they know my routine. I was thinking, if I kind of leave this bagel or this soda unattended, something is gonna come down and grab the bagel at least. Forget about the cream cheese, might be too heavy. Anyhow, so I took the second bagel and I cut it up into bits and pieces and spread it around the parking lot. I kind of went back to the back of my Ford. I kind of looked from the side of my eye. Within like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, a young black crow came down. I was just looking around the parking lot around the bits of bagels. So some stuff sounds incredible, and you might be very hard pressed to believe in that, but it happens, and because something happens, it is reality. It is true. It is not something that can be brushed away. For example, just this feeling and this event that happened, it shows a certain kind of communication between the crow and me. Like that's an animal, it's a bird. Okay, so how did the bird send a signal, showed an interest in the bagel? Then and I knew that hey, this bagel is in danger. That's sixth sense or telepathy between an animal and a human, and so normally most people think that that's just a coincidence, but I don't think it is a coincidence. I think animals they use all their being, all their they're able to communicate, and we humans we become such abstract thinkers. Our thinking becomes mechanical that sometimes we look at the stuff that happens and we don't believe that because it doesn't fit into this framework that we have built in our head of what reality or what happens in the world is. This is a okay. So I think that in the Sufi tradition, they say that the consciousness. I'm not just saying human consciousness. Now, after the crawl and what happened to the bagel, I'm just saying any kind of consciousness is part of the universe. The universe is nothing but consciousness. It's in bits and pieces here in the crawl and in the human. And whatever that you experience in the in your consciousness is the universe, is what God is experiencing or what God is thinking. Okay, so the Sufi master said that there is nothing in the universe that's impossible. Okay, so uh, and I'm gonna tell you a few other stories, but while I was watching, I was kind of brushing over these ideas of time travel, and I was looking at the video Brian Greene, the physicist, made. And he was just saying that time travel in the future is possible if you sat in a spaceship and went in some direction at close to the speed of light and came back to Earth. 6 months later, you'd be on a round trip of 1 year. You'll be 1 year older, but the Earth could have aged a lot more. So the conception of the experience of time for me in the spaceship is different than the experience that the Earth had. It could have aged million years. So this is possible. Time travel to the future is possible, but time travel in the past, I'm saying is possible, but it will not be like what you think that you can physically go back there. It will be like the consciousness of the universe. It has experienced this past. Okay, so if you are in communion with this consciousness, all you have to do is remember the past. Okay, because it's just like you go into a movie theater and the movie is playing. Okay, so you could go out like you went on a spaceship. You could go out to bathroom, and when you come back, you have missed some of the movie. You are now in the future of this movie. Okay, at future relative to what you were before you went to the bathroom. Okay, but also you could ask the theater, or you could wait until the next showing or seance of this movie, and then you would be actually experiencing the past before you went to the bathroom, or the earlier portions of the film. Our perception of time is this sequence of events, or this sequence of pictures that show up that make this movie, but doesn't mean that in reality that's what time experience is. For example, time experience for the movie projector itself and the movie is what happens in this sequence. Alright, so then I was studying a lot of these UFO phenomena that they have discovered, and there was a guy. His name is Bob Lazar, He's a physicist. I believe him a lot more than many other people who talk about UFOs. Anyhow, it seems that he was hired by the NASA or by secret arm of the NASA or the government to study the the UFOs that were captured. Okay, so then he started talking about it, and he was saying that the engine they use has an element. It's called Pentium, which is element 115. Okay, so I guess like if you study the heavy elements, actiniums, I think, and as you go higher in the periodic table, the the nucleus of these atoms becomes a lot heavier because the atomic number, say if it's 100, that is not really all that's happening in the nucleus. There is also neutrons, so the atomic number is double almost, or a little bit more than the number of protons. Okay, and then as you go higher, like around plutonium and past plutonium, these elements become unstable because there is a weak nuclear force inside the atom, and they want to split up, or there is a rate of decay into simpler elements. But some other physicists, they were studying these, and they were making higher weight atomic numbers by bombarding plutonium or uranium, and when you bombard them with neutrons, then the atom becomes even heavier. So, but the elements that they find are very unstable. A lot of them decay within microseconds into simpler atoms. It is a form of you bombard them and they decay. Okay, so in this process, some smaller particles they manifest themselves. Also, when these nucleuses become heavier, there's a large concentration of protons inside the atom. So okay, so there is like islands of stability. So for example, when you go higher in the periodic table, there is a few elements that are unstable, and then you come to a place where there is a couple of elements that are stable. It doesn't decay, or the decay rate is very long, and then it goes on like that. So he was saying that, oh, before I forget, most of the radioactive or heavier elements, they were made by the universe when there is a supernova explosion. For example, gold was not actually made inside the star. It happened because of supernova explosion, and in the process, a massive amount of neutrons were released, and these neutrons bombarded the lead atoms and other atoms and got stuck in the nucleus of these simpler elements, and just increased the atomic weight of the atoms. So a lot of the atoms, like platinum, um, gold, and so on, they were not really made by the star. They happened in a transition, or in a nuclear blast, or supernova blast, because of neutron bombardments, similar to what a physicist would do to, on a very minute scale, make higher order atoms out of the simpler ones of plutonium, so on. And so he was saying that in these UFOs that they had found this element of 115 or Pentium, And he said, I didn't think that there was such an element, because in order to make this element, you need like a neutron bombardment of simpler atoms, and this was very exotic process. Only some scientists study this stuff. But it says, hey, at some parts of the universe, the supernovas were more frequent, and this has happened. So this atom has very interesting properties, because there's a lot of protons inside the atom. And one of the effects of all these protons being glued together inside this atom is that they create a field that's this field is around the nucleus, but the range of the field is higher, or the length is higher than the field that's generated by the gluons that keep the atom together. So this field that has exceeded the boundaries of the atom is what creates some kind of negative gravity, which is the property of protons. I never heard these ideas before, but they're so weird, and the way he was talking, he was very earnest, and also because all the other stuff he was saying sounds logically the works of a physicist. Okay, so it's like it follows into a sequence of logical thinking, and you come into something that's completely bizarre. So he was saying that this negative field is what creates the anti-gravity effect of these captured UFO vehicles. Okay, so then he was saying that the way they did this is like, or the way they controlled or accentuated it, is that they had some kind of bombardment or further bombardment of these unpentium atoms, or supply of it, and then it kind of exaggerated, or made this effect even bigger. So there was like some kind of pipe where these neutrons were being bombarding these atoms, and creating additional anti-gravity effect. So then also he was saying that there probably is, theoretically speaking, there is atoms that also are in another island of stability around 273. There might be other atoms, but this is very exotic, because that such an atom, if it existed, it would be extremely heavy. But anyhow, so he was saying that this is real. We have seen it, but the technology is almost impossible for us to replicate, because it exceeds our technological level. But at some part of the universe, these creatures, they had been able to do this, because there were greater concentration of these unpentium atoms, or they could find it in nature, or their nature, or their part of the universe. And then he went on to say that the U.S. government had captured other UFOs, and they had about 500 pounds of this element stored. So we know U.S. government is stupid, and all they care about is let's keep everything secret and locked up. But hey, some things are leaked out, and then he said he leaked this information because it's wrong. Science can't progress if there is no disclosure or discussion between scientists. Anyhow, well, what I wanted to add to this whole discussion is that, well, he does mention it in a way that this is also possible, because when there is a field around the vessel that has anti-gravity, the equations that relate gravity they also have an element. Time is tied to this. So anything that can create anti-gravity. Say you have a machine, you put it under your feet, you stand on a platform, and this machine creates anti-gravity. Okay, so when it does, you also become kind of disconnected from the space or universe around you, and you, this is actually time travel, because it's the same thing when you're sitting in a spaceship and going close to the speed of light 6 months and coming back 6 months. Time passes differently if you're in this field of anti-gravity field. Okay, so then if we accept these ideas, which is a little bit far-fetched, okay, but there is evidence to it, then anything that can create anti-gravity, any field, whatever, that can do this, can also help this person travel in time, or the time passage would be different for them. So Mr. Lazar was saying that these people were in a different part of the universe, but they could be here within a short period of time, because time wasn't passing for them. Once they got into this field, they could travel through the universe or come to Earth. But if they went back, we don't know how much their planet would have aged. Anyhow, so what I'm saying is that if something in nature, there is an example of it, that it physically happened, like the story with the crow, it did actually happen, and I saw what happened. It is real. It is not, no matter how incredulous or strange that event might be, just for the fact that it happened and you saw it happen, that means that that's a phenomena that's real, and it can happen again or again in other circumstances. Well, anyhow, what I'm saying also is that there have been other races of humans in the history of the earth, that they got to a certain technological level, and there is some evidence from Nazis, and they had figured out this electrogravity, and I'm not sure. There is a lot of movies that they have been able to escape into bases in Antarctica, or who knows. I mean, there is another sci-fi movie coming out in like July or something, May, talks about return of the Nazis. But at this point, for me, that's a speculation. If the Nazis really discovered this phenomena and used it to help themselves at the end of the war, I'm suspicious that they had known about this phenomena. The Germans have very good scientists. I think that later on, many of the aviation or planes that the U.S. government used, or the scientists they used, they really the German aviation at the end of the World War II. So that's kind of sad that it didn't help them win the war. But this just brings me to this concept that anything that can create anti-gravity it makes time travel possible. Well, I want to go into some stuff in Christianity and Islam that kind of talks about this, but people really don't believe in that. That's kind of like religion, and it's a woo-woo, and we don't believe that. But there is evidence in the New Testament that after crucifixion, people had seen Christ levitating. And then in the Islamic history, uh, there is a story that Imam Ali traveled uh, from I think it was Medina to uh, to Kufa in one night uh, when his student Salman was dying. It was like and there, there were another mention of this in the Shia tradition of Islam, that there is this last Imam that will come and he will he's many Shia clergy, they very much insist that this person is not another person, is just the same body and same person. And I saw some discussions, and the clergy were very adamant that it doesn't matter what the science says, that human body ages. And he said that if Imam wanted to, he could bypass time. In fact, the Shia tradition says that the 12th Imam is going to come someday, and it will be the same person, will not be his kids or anybody. It will be just the same exact. But this is these ideas, even though they are in the historical accounts, but they kind of start sounding like stuff that the Nazis were doing with anti-gravity and levitation, and also has the possibility of time travel. But it's seeped into a lot of religious myth or stories. Well, the Shia says that at the end times, even the Christ will come first. So this is again the same concept of time travel. Anyhow, well, I had some experiences that is kind of personal. It kind of points to this concept or ideas. So, because after the revolution, Iranian revolution, I came here September '77, and then I think I stayed like a year and like a half, and then I went back for the summer. I don't know if it was 78 or 79. I know I was here like a year and a half, and then I went back, and then like I was looking at some demonstrations in Tehran, because after the Shah fell, then there were still demonstrations were coming out. So anyhow, I had this. I was standing and I was looking at all these people, and then there came this guy. He didn't seem to really belong to the place. His features of his face, they were not too far off from Iranian, but he wasn't really Iranian. He started chatting, and he told me, yeah, now the Shah has fallen, this and that. And he was like he was not interested at all in the demonstrations or what was going on around him. He seemed to be like kind of focusing on me, kind of like evaluating this and that. And his clothes and everything seemed like kind of match with the environment, but it wasn't exactly right. It was like he didn't belong to this time and place. And then many years later, I think I had another experience. I see the same guy. He just seemed to come in, kind of looking at stuff, kind of laid back, figuring out, hey, how this person is. Then some people when I meet them, they kind of look at me and think, say you are like this or that psyche, you are like this. I didn't tell them anything, but it seems that they were like looking at the future where I would be some kind of analyst or some kind of psychic, and they were saying, hey, you're like that, and this is what's going to happen. It's like their consciousness was able to travel in time and kind of look at the bigger picture. Hey, this kid is going to be like this and that. Was I think that's instances of time travel, or if the other person is psychic, their consciousness kind of looking at the future because they're connected to the universe. They kind of well, these ideas are very weird. I kind of have a struggle to kind of bring it into believability spheres, but if well, I've had so many psychic experiences that are extremely weird, just like the story with the bagel and the craw. Like I kind of sit back and think, hey, this if this happened and many things similar to this happened, why couldn't this other thing also happen? And hey, how do you explain this other stuff that happened all throughout life? So I don't know. I've been able to convince anybody, but this stuff seem interesting. There is a story in the I think this is from New Old Testament, and that there were these group of young people that they lived in a society where a lot of corruption, homosexuality was going, and they asked God, "Hey God, let us help us from this place." And God guided them to a cave, and they kind of were in the cave, and they passed out or they were asleep, and then when they woke up, it was 300 years later, and they sent somebody out to the town, and he took money to buy stuff, and everybody was telling him, hey, this money is really ancient, this is old, how did you come up with this money? Nobody uses this kind of stuff. But then also in the Shia tradition they say that Imam Mehdi disappeared near well, and I guess what the other thing, this other stuff I'm going to tell you is very kind of I have trouble believing it, but I guess there were some this happened recently. There were U.S. Marines that they in Afghanistan they found this what they call it, a VMO. It's like an ancient spaceship, and many of these Marines went into the cave. I guess they entered around this VMO and they totally disappeared. They were saying that like 8 of them had gone and they disappeared. So I guess there was like a field, just like the Old Testament story that when these people went into the cave, there was some kind of field, and the people they when they were in the field and they got up and went out, time has traveled. They have traveled in time. Time has elapsed to a great extent. So I mean, well, the other piece of evidence is that like Mecca and surrounding are built on megalithic location, which is like the distance between Mecca to North Pole and to the South Pole. When you divide them out, they become like a golden ratio. I guess what I'm saying that I think this technology was known very ancient times, just like how the Nazis discovered anti-gravity, then they used it. We don't know what they did at the end of the World War II. It could be that other races, human races, they discovered this thing, or that the Imam, he knew of such a field or a place. So that's kind of saying the same thing, that hey, the Imam can travel in time. It's not really another Imam or another person, but it's just this same person. But these ideas are very strange and far-fetched. But I'm just kind of going through them, like some of it seems logically makes sense. A lot of it doesn't, but I keep running into them. Oh well. Thank you for being in my YouTube channel, and my stuff is mostly research. And please subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you.